You are watching a SINspirational interview on the Faithful Sinners. Thanks for tuning in to this unique episode of SINspirational interviews on the Faithful Sinners podcast, where imperfect stories meet perfect grace. My name is Timothy Baker, and I am very proud to be bringing this story to you today because it's a testimony to what faith can actually do in our lives. This couple that we're going to meet with today has experienced some amazing and challenging tragedies just 15, 16 months ago. When you see them, you would be hard pressed to say that this has not been impactful, but more importantly, that they are still a very enthusiastic and positive couple and have embraced what the Lord provides and does for them. So I hope you enjoy the interview and that you're able to take something from it to bring a little bit more encouragement or joy to your own life as you and I all experience different challenges that we go through in this messy thing we call life. So enjoy this interview with Denny and DeeDee Waldrop. Well, Denny and DeeDee, I really appreciate you guys taking some time to share your story and your testimony. But would you mind just starting off here, giving me a little bit of background of who you are and kind of what inspired you to have this conversation today?
We've been married 48 years, and coming up on 48. Yes, we'll be 48 on September 22nd, and we've lived here in Beaver Dam probably all that
48
time,
years.
the whole 48 years. It's a family farm that we live on, and so I lived here a few years before we were married, and so I've been out here about 50 years. But my family has owned the farm since the late 40s, 1940s. So we've been here, kind of ingrained in the community for a long time. Um, I was the principal of the elementary school for 16 years, and then I was assistant principal there for 4 years. So I was, engaged in the community quite a bit there for about 20 years, and got a chance to work with so many of the children, which are now parents of children and grandchildren. And so I've seen several generations come through. And but what kind of got us to our meeting here today? Our oldest daughter Kelly has a flower farm in Montpelier, just a little ways away from us, and every Mother's Day, it's always a busy time for her, and so for the past few years, we've been able to volunteer and help her, DeeDee pretty much at the farm, and me in delivery. And so May 9th of 2025, as you can see, I was out delivering like I always do, and I was on my, I guess, the second or third stop of the morning, and was at a gentleman's farm. He'd ordered a fairly large arrangement for his wife, for Mother's Day. And so I pulled in and had to drive a little ways to get to the house. And in front of his house, he had his, um, I guess it's an F-250 or 350, a fairly large flatbed truck with a trailer attached. And on the trailer was a John Deere tractor with one of those big round bales of hay on it. So it was a fairly lengthy um, piece of equipment there, but it had the whole driveway blocked. And so I was like, okay, I got to carry this arrangement up. What can I do? So I got out and I started walking up to the house just to say, hey, I'm here. Can you pull up or back up so I can get through? Well, I'd taken maybe I'd walk 25, 30 paces, I guess. And he came out on the porch. And so we did the old Beaver Dam greeting. I waved, he waved. And so I figured, well, he knows who I am. So I turned around and started back to the car. And I saw him coming off the porch. And so, I opened up the back of our UTV to get our car to get the flowers out. I heard the truck start, and I thought, no big deal. He's going to pull up, So I've gathered up the flowers in my hand, and instead of him pulling forward, he backed up, and he hit our car, which I'm standing at the back, which immediately hit me about mid thigh. Down I went. He keeps coming. So our car and his trailer and everything keeps coming. My first thought, Tim, was kind of an old Boy Scout thing. I like, get low. Get low. Maybe it'll go over top of me. I'll stand up and walk away from you. Well, it hadn't gone 5 feet before something grabbed me at my waist. I don't know whether it was the axle or what it was. And so at that point, I'm at, total mercy of the truck and the tractor and whatever there that had me. And so it just kind of kept spinning me around. He kept coming. He didn't even realize he'd hit our car. I mean, I had DeeDee's car and the front end was just crushed. I don't know how you can hit something like that and not realize it, but he dragged me about 60 feet. I got run over 3 different times. The 4th time I knew was the end because the tire was coming right at my face. And I saw it coming. I thought, well, you know, this is it. And that just at the last moment, I just said, please stop. And it stopped really within 6 inches of my face. And I guess at that point, he realized he'd hit something. And so they came around, got me out from underneath the trailer. Um, and then somehow just got me out into the field, kind of away from the accident. And at that point, I'm still awake. And so, he asked me, what can I do for you? Well, I'm like, duh, call 911. Well, first of all, he said, are you hurt? And, I'm in a ball of flesh at this point. I mean, my leg's broken, my shoulder's broken. I've got 40 broken bones. I've got 19 broken ribs, compound fracture in my leg. I'm in pretty bad shape and I'm kind of wheezing for breath because my lungs are punctured. And, but anyway, I said, call 911. I said, and call my wife. And somehow I got her phone number out to him. I don't know how I did, but I did. And so he ended up calling. He pulled me out into the field. At that point, it kind of started drizzling a little bit. And so I don't remember much of his conversation after that. But what I understand is that he called his wife. He had a cell phone. Now, why he didn't just call right away, but he called his wife and got his wife to call 911. And then his wife called y'all, right? I think. He didn't call for some reason. And so his wife was trying to put together what was going on. And so she's like, I know there's been an accident. I think somebody's hurt. I don't know what degree. I don't know if they're bleeding. And so she's talking to EMS back and forth. They're trying to get information. So they arrive. I don't know how much longer from that. I don't remember exactly. I remember hearing the sirens. And uh, they thought that it was maybe a fender bender. And so they brought the least amount of equipment that they needed to. They were not aware of what they were coming into. As a matter of fact, the EMS workers told my daughter, we got there and we're like, oh crap, we're not prepared for this. And so
Mm.
from that point on through, Tim, I mean, I was supposed to die. I mean, the EMS workers said, we'll do what we can, but chances are he's not going to make it. The state police said, chances are he's not going to make it. I should have been airlifted out, but they didn't, and they put me in a regular ambulance and drove me about an hour and 15 minutes into Richmond to Henrico Doctors at Forest, and over the back roads of Louisa and Hanover. But anyway, I didn't I didn't remember. I was out, so I didn't feel any of it. But uh, what was kind of ironic is my daughter got there first, Kelly, and she was under the impression too that maybe, gosh, dad backed into a fence or, he ran over some shrubbery or something. And so she wasn't prepared for what she found. And so she came out to the field and she got to the accident and she went to the gentleman and said, where's my dad? And he was over at a pickup truck with a friend of his. And he said, oh, he's over there. And she's like, where? He says, over there. And he pointed out to the field. And he had pulled me out to the field and just left me there. And it was raining. And so she comes upon me and she's like, my gosh, it's, what's going on? So she tried to cover me with her body as best she could in a jacket and protect me from the weather a little bit till the EMS workers got there. And from that point on, I don't remember much else until I kind of got out of ICU a couple of days later. They took me directly in Henrico Forest. That's kind of where they um, did the most damage control, and that's where they kind of saved my life. Was there. From that point, I went to Chippenham for quite a while, but I was for a month. I was in ICU for a week. I didn't remember anything the first few days at all. But amazing how God works. Okay, and this is all this stuff I tell people, and they're like, "Come on, man." So they get to the hospital, and one of the first nurses that they're taking me back goes, "Mr. Waldrop?" I don't remember it. And she actually was a student that I had taught. And so that immediately gave DeeDee and Kelly, mother, and Blair, my daughters, a bit of relief. They're like, wow, how ironic that it would be a student that he taught that's one of the ICU nurses. And so she was able to be a part of that. I felt so bad for them because for about 24 hours, they were getting no information other than he's really hurt bad. He's really in bad shape. And so, but that nurse was able to come out and the doctor was able to come out periodically to kind of keep her updated. No one gave any hope. Even the physicians were like, if he makes it, it's going to be really a long haul. Um, but they didn't give her any really chance of my survival. But I did. And so that's the true blessing, I guess, is that God pulled me through it. But it's just so many interesting things that came along during the process. I can share some of the miracles with you, Tim, if that's what you'd like to hear about. Stop me whenever because I'll get to rolling. So just stop me and say, "Yeah, I got a question for you."
Oh, you're doing great. This is actually great information. It had to be very challenging, DeeDee, for you.
Yes, very challenging. Um, I do want to share a verse that helped us
Oh,
to get
yes.
through. It's Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. And that was so comforting, knowing that we weren't alone. We knew that we were on prayer list. I mean, as far as Taiwan, where our daughter had lived, we had people praying. And like he said, they gave us really no hope, really a string, a little thread that it's possible that he could live. So he was unconscious for 2 weeks and he was in ICU for a month and then came home and so many complications have occurred since then. He had some nerve damage which affected his bowel and bladder control. So he has a colostomy and a catheter that he'll probably have all his life. He's got foot drop, so walking is definitely um, a challenge, and we're working on that. He worked so hard. I'm so proud of how he has m- walked around the house and moved.
I'm going to walk. People say, "What's your goal?" I said, "It's to walk. I'm going to walk." One way says at some point, and I can walk now with a walker a little bit, but my goal is to be able to maybe not take a stroll or walk a marathon, but I'm planning on being able to walk. That's kind of my goal down the line.
We celebrate those
Yeah.
those moments. Um, but I just want to share. The girls and I would look at each other and just smile because the nurses, the doctors, and the PT people in the hospital, they like all had biblical names. I wrote them down: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. There was an Abraham, a Nehemiah, a Sarah, Ruth. We had a man named Moses. We had Paul, Peter, James, Jeremiah, Jacob, um, and Stephen. I,
How many Nehemiahs do you see?
I mean,
Not too
we
many.
we
Yeah,
just kept having these biblical names of people that came in, and every time I'd say, "Oh, you have a biblical name that just gives us comfort," and so that helped us get through as well. And then I'll let Denny share the some of the
Oh,
miracles.
and you've got another biblical name here today that's helping to share your story because I typically go by Timothy. So
Timothy,
oh, do you
right,
really?
right.
Okay. Okay. There
We'll
you go.
add you to
Hold
that
on. I'm gonna
too.
write that one down. I'm gonna put that one down. I did not realize that, but that's incredible. But God just continues to do that. Just when I'm least expecting, He'll hit me with something like that. I'm like, really? Seriously? And it's just been absolutely one blessing after another, one miracle after another.
And
Um,
believers they don't connect those
yeah, yeah.
things,
If you don't believe, they're like, and that's why we put "you believe in miracles" because I love sharing the story with people that are willing to, not the whole rendition of it, but kind of the cliff notes, and what's going on, and hopefully bless some folks as I'm talking to them. And I've had quite a few that have kind of, followed up, asked questions. We even have this gentleman that uh, he delivers Instacart to us, because for a long time, I couldn't get it at all, and DeeDee was kind of right by my side, and so we would use Instacart to get food brought to Beaver Dam, believe it or not, but they did, and his name's Ronnie, and sometimes he'd be with Publix, sometimes he'd be with Wegmans, sometimes he'd be with Food Line. Anyway, he would deliberately look to see if our name came up, and if it did, he would try to grab our order, and so Timmy got so he came into the house. He would end up bringing like an extra little dessert or extra something that we hadn't ordered, and he actually came up. We prayed together one day together, the three of us, and just just crazy stuff you don't think about. At first when he did that, I thought, this guy okay, and then I realized, God was working through his life just like he was working through mine, and it's been so bizarre. But some of the other blessings that we've had, uh, we had to run a ramp because we had a push. I've got an electric cart now, but I had a push wheelchair for a long time, and it was wearing her out. I mean, I'm not
Oh, yeah.
heavy, but just up and down. And so we were paying about $400 a month for a metal ramp, and we kind of let it get out. Kind of a pain, but anyway. And this group called Men's in Ministry got word of it, and Tim is a group of, I call them old, but I'm older than they are now. 70 plus years old men, retired. Um,
Hmm.
all of them seem to have a particular position in this team. It was about probably 8 of them. And so one gentleman came out, he measured, found out what we needed. They came back in about a week. They had the new ramp is made of wood, but he had pre-cut it. And in about 2 hours, they took the old ramp down, had the new one up, and were ready to go. But they were all like 70 plus years old or more, and each one had a particular job, and they were like boom, 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 and it was over.
And at no cost.
At no cost.
Yeah.
And wouldn't accept it. But I say
Yes.
they're called Men's in Ministry. It was the darndest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, wow, that's something I'd love to be able to do. Um, I mentioned the wheelchair. We had like I said, we've still got the push wheelchair that we need if necessary. But um, my Sunday school class, I hadn't been able to attend for a long time, and so they realized what we're dealing with, and so they began to pray about an electric wheelchair. They're pretty expensive, so it's not something we could afford. Anyone could afford, and but they started praying about it, and one of our couples came home one Sunday from Sunday school, and the husband was like, I really wish we could do something for Denny and DeeDee on this wheelchair thing. So he opens up Marketplace, and he said the very first thing that popped up was an electric wheelchair, and he's like, it wasn't there yesterday when I was looking, but it popped right up. So he immediately called the people that had it. The way that materialized was kind of crazy because they'd been intending on putting it online for a long time. They hadn't done it, just decided to put it on that
It was
morning.
new.
It was brand new. I mean, it hadn't been used, I bet, half a dozen times. And so they went to the house, talked to the folks. They still won't tell us whether it was gifted or whether they had to pay for it or whatever. But anyway, they called me and said, "Hey, Denny, you want that electric wheelchair?" And I was like, "Well, sure." And the next morning, they showed up at the house with the electric wheelchair and never would take a dime for it and never would tell us, other than the story that I just shared with you, what what materialized with it. And so we've been blessed with this very nice heavy duty wheelchair that goes up and down, helps me get into microwave and stuff like that. I can reach now, and for no cost. It's just I mean that was a major miracle in itself.
And then some people got together and also from Marketplace found an ICU electric bed. We Medicare had given us a regular bed, but it didn't have the option to raise up. So, I was having to lean over, and I had back issues. So this was a miracle, just being able to have so many more options.
Another one of my students,
And
she
yeah,
came across it and purchased it and had it delivered to us.
so that was another free item, just a blessing that we received. And
And items of necessity,
oh
realistically. I mean,
yes, oh yes, and gift cards for gas going back and forth to the hospital and to eat and Instacart and I mean, just thousands of dollars worth of gift cards and donations, the renovations that we need to widen the doors in our house, and we need a chairlift to go downstairs, and we need, um, doors wide and things like that. We've received donations to take care of all of that.
Well, we're getting them. We don't have
Yeah,
them all yet.
and
Hopefully that'll
and a
materialize.
mobility van. And before we had the mobility van, he would have to go by a mobile transport. And he couldn't
And
sit,
rurally, that's not easy.
and he couldn't sit up at first. He had metal, they're called external fixators that were in his pelvis and his leg, and they're
And they sit up about this far from you.
metal bars that are, out of your body. And so we couldn't sit up. And they would come. We get the same guys all the time. We would witness to them, and it's just everybody we met, we could share something about our story that would help us and then help them as well. So that was just, to me, really cool. I mean, everybody.
I need to share, if you don't mind, share a funny story about these X-fixes, okay? And basically there's the long screws, and they drill into the bone and they keep the bone in place, while you're healing. And so I had how many?
We had,
10, 12.
we had 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, more than that, we took them out. Anyway, so I go into the orthopedic doctor, let him check it out. I've had him in for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months at that point. And he says, "Hey, Denny, would you like to get those out?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Today?" I was like, "Absolutely." Because you couldn't turn over. I couldn't, they're setting up out of your body, so you really couldn't move very well. And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to get them out today." And it's like, I thought, wow, we're in the office. It's a small little room. So I'm expecting he's going to take me down the hall to some,
OR.
exam room or 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 something. And he's like, "No, we're going to do it right here." And I was like, okay. Next thing I know, he pulls out a ratchet set. Like a ratchet set
That he brought from home.
that he brought from home. And he said, so then he starts unscrewing these things with a ratchet. And at that point, I'm coming off the table. I'm like, this was not a good decision. It hurt. I've never had anything like, if you think about it, because what had happened was my nerves and skin had kind of grown back over some of these a little bit. And so as he's unscrewing, it's hitting nerves and it's pulling skin. And it was so painful.
Well,
but
he did give him the option to go to the
he did.
OR.
He said, "You want to come back tomorrow? We'll put you to sleep and get him out." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, I'm here. Let's go ahead and do it." I didn't know it. Hindsight. Never again. You want to ask me? No. They don't put you to sleep. But that was it was funny now. At the time, it was awful. But we got him out, and so I walked out. I didn't walk out. She rolled me out without sticking in my body. So that was kind of cool to do that. But
You are listening to The Faithful Sinners. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel. Now back to the show.
But we had this is a kind of a interesting blessing that we had. As you know, Beaver Dam is kind of a small community, and one of the churches they've been it's not even our home church, it's another church in Beaver Dam. They've been so supportive. The ladies have been supportive, the men have been supportive of us. And so a friend of ours goes there. She said, "Denny, we want to have a spaghetti dinner, and raise money to help you get some of the things you need." And I was like, I love her to death, so I had to say yes, but I'm thinking small church, spaghetti dinner. What are we talking about? A couple $100 maybe. I don't, every little bit of help, but I was thinking this is not going to be, it'd be fine. And so, we promoted it and everything. And the night of the spaghetti dinner, I came down with a daggone bladder infection. And so DeeDee's got to take me into the ER. So I missed the spaghetti dinner. But they had a big huge turnout. And so afterwards, my daughter was there and she said, "Dad, I'm going to bring over the contributions." $12,000. $12,000.
Wow.
Zion Christian Church.
Zion
Beaver
Christian
Dam.
Church, a spaghetti dinner.
Oh, wow. Yeah. My neighbor,
People
Frankie and Shelby are right there
Yeah.
with that church.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there.
Shelby. Yeah.
Yeah, Shelby. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Frank, and they were big
They were
part
there.
of it.
Yeah. just
So
unbelievable.
$12,000 for
You know,
just a small.
we couldn't even be there to help celebrate with them. That was so crazy. But I
Wow.
mean, I was just floored. So that's just how God, will take something we think is going to be this big, and He'll make it this big. As big as needed. So that was it. I mean, I was just floored. I'm still floored, even thinking about how that even came out. But and we've had loads of cookies. We have some people that didn't even know us that showed up one day. The kids were out of school for a snow day or something, and she said I was bored, and she said I decided to make some cookies, and I called around to ask if anybody knew of people that need them, and they gave me your address, and so she showed up and visited for a long time. Came back later on her own just to visit
With her
and
son,
with
yeah.
her son, and yeah, it's
Huh.
just one of
Just
those
little
crazy things.
friendships that have developed.
Yep.
Um, it really has. God just took a tragedy and has blessed us. It's not the way we thought we would retire. It's definitely we had to adjust to the new normal, and it was depressing. I grieved the life that we were going to have. Went through some depression about that. Um, Obviously, we've had some anger um, that this happened, and a whole gamut of emotions. But I think the gratitude outweighs all of that. We're so
Yeah.
grateful that he's alive. We're grateful that Eric, we've had such support, and these things that have happened to us is just, I mean, it's overwhelming. The love and support that we've received is just overwhelming. People came out to sing Christmas carols. It was probably the coldest night ever. And the man
This was not just a church. This was
this
community
community
people and people that
and
I used to play
teachers
ball with. I mean, they lived in Richmond and Henrico County. They came out to sing Christmas carols.
and teachers and just friends that came out, and they were just going to sing outside. And the man that runs the little coffee um, truck in Montpelier came and provided complimentary hot chocolate.
Huh.
And it was
we
so
don't even know.
cold.
We don't even know him.
It was so cold.
You know?
We asked him to come in, fill the house, and it was a beautiful night.
Just
A beautiful
Yeah.
night
Yeah.
of
Wow.
celebrating Christmas. And um,
Well, you mentioned the emotional roller coaster that you went through on the front end. Obviously, the challenge that you went through is extremely taxing on how you address it and how you feel about it. But I have to say, from the minute we connected here today, I've seen nothing but smiles and joy, and spirit-led motivation.
mhm.
It's wonderful to see that you are able to embrace life the way you are at this point, even though you went through such a tragic and trying time in your lives, and which drastically changed everything that
Oh,
you had
absolutely.
seen moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was as a matter of fact, 6 months before this accident, I went in to have my gallbladder taken out. Excuse me. And I mean, what do they do? 1,000 gallbladders a day, probably nationwide, more than that, I'm sure. It's a routine test. And so in the midst of having the gallbladder taken out, my heart stopped on the table. And so they had to shock me twice to bring me back to life that day for gallbladder surgery. Ended up getting a pacemaker and defibrillator put in at immediately right then. Um, I mean, I go into it and they put me to sleep, and DeeDee's there, and I'm like, okay, I'll see you in a couple hours. And when I wake up, I notice it's a little bit darker outside than what I thought, and my two daughters are like right here, right in front of my face, and I was like, "What are y'all doing here?" They're like, "You died." I mean, they cut to the chase. You know, I said, "What do you mean I died?" They said, "Dad,
Wow.
you died." I said, Y'all are nuts. What are you talking about?" And then they explained to me what had happened. And so that was 6 months. So at that point, Tim, as most Christians would do, I'm like, okay, God's not finished with me. He's got a plan for me. I didn't take him too seriously, I guess, because this accident, you know where I'm going with this. This accident, I'm taking him seriously. He's not done with me. I don't know what he's got planned for me, but I'm open to whatever he wants to do. And I've tried as best I can to be positive when people are here, and even when they're not here, because I mean, the consequences could have been a lot different, and so it could be a lot different things. So I'm just so blessed that he's kept me here, and I'm trying to do what he wants me to do, and I've got a ways to go,
Well,
but just still looking for that. We had uh, just a few weeks ago, I had to go in for I had a blockage in my intestines. I had to go into the emergency room, and they admitted me for a couple of days. But while we're in the emergency room, they were so busy. My bed was out in the hallway, as were others. We were the only ones in the emergency room hallway. And so this little redheaded nurse came by. She took my blood pressure and took some other things, and she kind of looked at us. She's like, "Were you here? Did you have an accident like about a year ago?" And I'm like, "I don't remember. I mean, I did, but I don't remember much about it." She was one of the ER nurses that had been there with me that night. And then she goes
wow.
down the hallway and gets another nurse that had been in there too and came back up. And so, I mean, 14 months later, our lives are crossing again, in an emergency room. And so there was just the way God, I'm like, I couldn't orchestrate that. Only God's the only one who can make that happen. And so, to
Well,
see that,
what kind of challenges are you dealing with at this stage, and how are you able to address some of those things?
um, as far as physically or emotionally,
I both
both,
actually.
um, physically, I'm still trying to get strength back. I'm still really tired. I get tired real easily. I'm trying to do a lot more walking with a walker, and we've got a rollator too. Just trying to build my strength back because I want to have my knees got to be, I've got to have knee replacement because that was crushed in the accident, and the doctor wants me to be a lot more strong, lot stronger than I am right now with my knee. His philosophy is if you can't walk into my office, you won't walk out of it. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the new knee is not the godsend. That's not going to make you walk. You need to be strong enough to walk." So I'm in the process of trying to build that stamina back up and do that.
His
And
muscles had really atrophied.
yeah,
You don't use
Oh
them,
yeah.
and
and my
so
bones too. A couple of bones have gotten
he
really
feels
soft.
soft and
And so just taking
Mm.
more vitamins and trying to work and do that.
his
Um,
stamina.
emotionally, it's kind of like this. I'll be real high for, a few days and then, I'll just have a little pity party. And, my youngest daughter says, "Dad, you can have them. That's fine, but don't stay there." She said, "You can have your pity party, but then leave it alone and then come back." And
Right.
so I'm trying to make those lesser and lesser
He
as we
gets
go
more
by.
upset because he can't do the things that he wants to do and that he feels bad that we have to do them for him, simple things. But he can with the
Yeah.
wheelchair, with this electric wheelchair, he can raise it up and get into the microwave. We've got things on a certain level for him in the refrigerator so he can make a sandwich, trying to be as independent as he can. But everything's a challenge getting in the car. Um, he actually got in the truck and drove it um, around.
I can drive. She says I can't. I know I can't.
He
Uh,
hasn't passed the test at physical therapy to
well,
drive. Let's
yes,
just
sir.
say that. But he's driven around the farm. He's driven around the farm. But he has those goals, and that's good. Um, but it's a challenge with
I
just
mean, I wanna cut grass, I wanna be able to weed eat and all those things that I used to be able to do, and now I've gotta count on someone else to do those. And just little like putting, we got our bed is pretty high, and so we purchased like a 3-step ladder type thing to help me get in and out. And, I'd love to be able to just put that together, but I can't. I can't get on the floor and, get that done. I've gotta count on somebody else. And that just gets real frustrating. And, I get down sometimes, just upset at myself for not being able to do and having to count on them to do others and my grandson and others. And so
we
because
went to the beach, and he never could get down to the ocean.
yeah, I never could get I could see it from where we were, but I couldn't get down to it. So
He got to the
um
pool, but
yeah,
just
we're going
couldn't
back
get.
in a couple.
Yeah, that would be very frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But we're going back in a
yeah.
week, and the place we're staying, I think, has one of those wheelchairs with the big wheels. I mean, like this big that I think
Yep.
would be able to at least get me down to the water. And I'll at least maybe get a chance to see that. So I'm hoping this time I can do that. So, but if I can,
The handicapped
you know,
Well,
world is
yeah.
their eyes have been open to
Oh my
the
gosh.
to what people have had to endure, and how even DMV didn't have doors that opened,
Yeah.
no electric doors for handicapped people. Um, it's amazing the just the challenges of having to get a wheelchair in and out of places.
And to try to get
And
into things like the freezer or the, refrigerator at the grocery stores, where the doors open this way. I can't maneuver this thing enough to when the one door's already shutting on me, and so I quite often have to ask if I'm there with her and she's shopping somewhere else, just ask another customer, "Hey, can you get X, Y, and Z for me off the shelf?" And everybody's most gracious to do that, but it's daggone it, I ought to be able to do it myself. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things I should be able to do.
Running a farm, I can imagine, you were very
Oh,
self-reliant
yeah, I
and
can't be able to get back in
you
the
were
tractor.
able to do
Okay,
all
yeah.
these things.
I wanna be able to get back in the tractor hopefully this coming spring, so,
that's
um,
another blessing. We have a neighbor friend
yeah,
that did all of his hay.
yeah, did all the cutting of the hay
And
and and baling the
our
whole
grandson,
thing.
we only had to pay one person. And
Wow.
so that was really, really a blessing
Yeah.
that was taken care of. And I had to quit my job. Um, I'll still work one day a month just to get out of the house. But
It's
um,
funny because people would say, you know, "DeeDee, do you still work?" "Uh-huh." I'm like, "Honey, one day a month does not count as working." Uh, I'm sorry, but go ahead and tell them. You can go ahead and play the facade, but
well, it was just
no, it's funny.
they
It
they
was
wanted originally they wanted to put him in a facility,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
I knew that a nursing facility was not that he would get MRSA. They wouldn't give him his pain medicine on time. That it would not be the environment that I felt like he could thrive. So I brought him home, and it was again another blessing that I was a nurse and I dealt with orthopedics and colostomies and catheters and
It's always
bed sores, and both girls live on the farm, so I had plenty of help, and it worked out so much better than I really don't think he would have survived.
Yeah, I think that would have been a very emotionally depressing
Very
environment,
depressing.
to have to go through all of this. And what still amazes me is we're only talking 15, 16 months ago all this occurred.
it seems like longer, but it really has not been that long considering that, you know, the way things have progressed. So, I mean, just when I think I want to do more, DeeDee will kind of bring me back to reality and say, Denny, look where you've come from. I mean, 6 months ago, you couldn't do hardly anything, couldn't even, sit up in bed. And now I can get up, I can walk around a little bit and actually get out of bed by myself without her knowing. But I know I'm an
Well, you,
exposed.
you mentioned something at the very beginning of what you were doing with work, as far as being the principal of the elementary school. My one son is actually going to be in his last year at the new elementary school this year, so I'm excited
Oh,
about
really?
that.
Okay.
But what's really interesting is just recently I had connected with Chip Joseph,
Oh, no
Really?
kidding.
and he had actually talked about a story of the previous principal and all the tragedy and things, and here all these things are coming back together in a full circle, which just is amazing.
That is crazy.
We've
That
enjoyed
is
his
crazy. Chip
visits.
has come by so often
Yeah,
and been
we've
I
enjoyed
knew
it.
him when he taught, when he was a teacher and I was principal. I knew him then. And then he, of course, he was principal at the school too for I think 6 years at Beaver Dam. And so we've gotten even closer then. And, he's doing so great with St. Matthews now. And just seems like he really enjoys and found a niche there. But yeah, he's come by several times. Been trying to help me with my testimony, brought me books to read, and just a top notch young man. Well, he's older now, but to me, he's young man.
Yeah, I actually did an interview with Chip just a couple months
Oh, did
ago,
you really?
and I go to their services on
Oh,
Sundays
do you
at
really?
the
Uh-huh.
Okay,
4 p.m.
okay,
Because I was always looking for something to do in the evening hours, and Beaver Dam Baptist didn't have that offering yet at this point.
right.
And I happened to just stumble into that, and sure enough, I show up, and here's Chip running everything. I couldn't believe it.
Uh-huh.
That is
Really,
that is
really
cool.
threw me for a loop.
That's great.
He is such a good guy.
As far as your story, I think everything that you've gone through in such a short, I mean, honestly, this is such a short period of time to see so many blessings, to
Yeah,
see not only the emotional roller coaster that you went through, but the joy that's in your hearts right now. That's very unusual for people this short out from such a massive tragedy. And that just says a lot about the Lord, says a lot about the love between the two of you. And that's absolutely amazing. And I hope people that watch this will really understand and embrace
I hope so.
what you have been brought through and how you each have carried each other through this process, along with God carrying you as well.
Yeah.
It's all because of the Lord. We want that known, foremost. If we didn't have the Lord, we may not have survived this.
Oh, no question. Yeah, no question about it.
Wrap things up for you today, is there anything that you would like to share, or anything that you would hope this would inspire in others that see this story today?
Wow.
We thank our community, our church, our family.
And I should say churches, because
Oh,
not just our
churches,
home church,
yes.
but I mean,
The many churches.
many churches across the area have just been so outpouring of blessing for us. So it's been just amazing to see. I'll get a fruit basket from a church that we don't even attend, and I'm like, oh, it was really nice of them. But it's just that's the way God works.
I think to just inspire people by staying in the Word and looking at God's promises, and even in the darkest moments, He's with us. Even in a road that we weren't expected to travel, to stay on that path and to look for the things. They're not consequences, and there's nothing by consequence. Everything is God controlled, and to just look for the good. Look for the good.
And don't quit.
It's a Jason Mraz
quit.
song. Look for the good. That's what we do.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up. I definitely do appreciate you guys taking time
Thank
to share this story. Very impactful, that's for sure. And what has led to us connecting through Sandy. And then to know that I'm a neighbor
Yeah.
of people that had an impact during your story. It's just a blessing to see all these things fold together, and look forward to the day I get to meet you guys in person here, which I'm
Me
sure is
too.
going to be
Yeah,
pretty
me
soon.
too.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, folks.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Faithful Sinners, and get more inspiration on our website, thefaithfulsinners.com.